Our You Decide coverage continues here on Fox Carolina News with the now official sheriff-elect of Spartanburg County, Bill Rhyne. Sheriff Rhyne, congratulations. Thank you so much for joining us once again. When it comes down to what you've been doing the past 2 months, we saw a lot of you over the summer with the special election, the runoff in August. September, October, what have you been up to leading up to Election Day just last night?
Well, you know, I was finishing up a lot of my decisions on my command staff to move forward, but I've been very, very fortunate. In a normal election cycle, you'd be elected in November, but you wouldn't take office until January. So there's kind of that transitional period. With this being a special election, you don't have those opportunities necessarily, and the county extended the ability for me to come into the sheriff's office. I'm actually starting my 6th week, and I've been there kind of in a sheriff-elect role since I was unopposed going into this election cycle. I cannot tell you how great that has been for me, because to get in there, to start familiarizing myself with everything that goes on within the office, familiarizing myself with the staff, the procedures, everything that we do, being able to start building those relationships and, you know, having those conversations with those folks there. And it's going to be a tremendous help for my transition, because otherwise we would have run yesterday and we would have sworn in this upcoming Friday. So you'd have had 2 days. There's so much that goes into running both sides of that organization, from the sheriff's office to the jail. It's very important to have that transitional time, so I'm very glad to have had that opportunity.
You've been able to be there in that office, the essential sheriff-elect. What was that moment like when you addressed those deputies for the first time, the moment you walked in those doors as essentially the sheriff-elect back in August?
Well, you know, I've never really gotten to address them as a group. It's just been those conversations that I've gotten to have with them, working with them. And there's been really key figures that I've worked with at this point in time through the transition, when they're really going to see me for the first time, and I'm really going to get to cast my vision, and what my expectations are will start this Friday. I'll be swearing in at 11:30 on Friday morning, and from there we start the swearing in process. We'll have 12 swearings of the staff, both at the detention center and the sheriff's office, on Friday, Sunday afternoon, and Monday.
What is going to be your message to them? What's the first thing you want them to know about Sheriff Rhyne?
Biggest thing I want to say to them right out of the gate is that I'm sorry for what they've had to deal with, and what they've had to deal with over this last year. Even saying I'm sorry to the people of Spartanburg County that they've been put through that. I recognize that my primary goal that I have to do is reinstill the trust, not in the sheriff's office, but in the office of the sheriff, in the position that I hold. I've been, you know, elected to that position and entrusted with the leadership of that office, and I want them to understand that I'm there to support them. You know, I cannot tell you how proud I am of the men and the women of that office. Just recently, you and I have talked about it. We had what potentially was an active shooter situation last week, and you know, when we got to the scene, I had a different vantage point from everybody else being on command, and watching those men and women work at that office and seeing what they did, seeing how they responded to that situation, it just made you well up with pride. Because as I saw them coming back when we were clearing the scene, you know, they were smiling, they were happy, you know, they were talking with one another, and what that said to me was, this is what we do. And I want the people of Spartanburg County to understand that that's what they did the entire time, through everything that they've gone through for the last year. It is what they do. They have performed at the highest level, not just there, even with the detention center. I'm so proud of what I've gotten to learn about the detention center, the time that I've gotten to spend with Major Lesso, who is the jail administrator there. You know, they perform at a very high level, and a lot of times you hear things and you see things on social media that are just not factual. That's one of the highest performing jails in the state of South Carolina. They set a standard, they set a bar. And, you know, we're seeing great things happen. We're seeing more officers coming. The vacancy rate is dropping exponentially just since the election. So we're very excited about the future.
You talk about talking to those deputies and apologizing, saying you're sorry, you understand what they've been through the past 3 years. Does it feel like more of a weight going into this office, that you recognize what has happened, where the ex-sheriff has now pleaded guilty to federal charges? Does that feel like more of a weight, or does it feel like more of a full reset for yourself, the department, and the county?
No, obviously I'd say it's 100% a full reset. You know, we can't live in the past. We have to live in the future. You know, at the runoff, I made the comment that night that healing starts now. And that's how I want it to be viewed, that healing starts now. We have a lot of wonderful plans moving into the future. They're going to see an agency that they've never gotten to be a part of, because I talked about it throughout the election. I believe in collective leadership. But great leaders understand that you don't give direction because direction can be easily misinterpreted as micromanagement. You give a destination. You entrust your command staff to make those decisions, to take that agency where you need to go. Because if you give the directions and you're driving on a road trip and you don't really know where you're going, you may be missing a lot of things that you need to see. And when you entrust those people that you've entrusted to put in command to run their units, then you're going to get to that destination, maybe in a completely different way, but it's a lot better way of doing that, because when you entrust them to do their jobs, you're going to get a much better result on the backside. And when they see that, it's going to bleed down to all your staff. So they're going to see something completely different than what they've seen in the past.
All right, Sheriff-elect Bill Rhyne, Sheriff-elect for just a couple of days, swearing in, coming up on Friday. So Sheriff Rhyne, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.